Remember that they're changing my voice. I'm going to make this quick as I go over the last 160 videos. I'm just going to talk about the topics in general for the most part after I mention, the first couple videos or so. So let's get into it. So in Illuminati part 42, I talk about how the women's rights movement was actually founded by males who wanted to bring down the family structure, and to kind of create to reinforce the left-right paradigm so that people would think that white people are superior, that their culture is magically superior, and so on and so forth. So they would think that. I'm not saying that. Don't take me out of context. So part 43, I talk about this one guy was hunting Nazis, and I quotes the Bible. Part 44, the verses continue. I talk about Genesis, and it says that the heavens bring signs and seasons, citing the sun as the greater light to rule the day. And I talk about Judges 5:20, saying that the stars are fighting a war, right? They're referring to the stars as fighting a war. You see in Revelation, the stars are said to represent angels as well, right? So I talk about 1 Corinthians 14:34, I believe it is, saying that women should be in submission, according to the Bible, to the husband. And of course, it's talking about a righteous husband, not what males are doing these days. So it doesn't really have a strong, after my flesh dies, it really won't have any kind of bearing on the future because people will be hopelessly outside of the divine order. So a guy who's, doing the wrong thing and rebelling against God, reproducing when he shouldn't be, what have you, can't then turn around and tell a woman to kind of do what he says and so on and so forth. So Illuminati part 45, I talk about the truth about the Bible and Egypt as its source, an argument I maintain to this day. Illuminati part 46, I talk about how the Jews, no matter how you slice it, are part black, and Arabs are part black in ancient Egypt as well. The people are part black and Arab in ancient Egypt, and there's kind of overlapping DNA. There's a lot of people arguing with me about where the racial line is, and I say, hey, people are kind of mixed in that area. There's a lot of wars fought, a lot of empires went through there. They're a lot more mixed than you're making it seem. I talk about Nehemiah 47, and I use it as an example. Where I believe that's the one where I said that it shows that the Jews in the Bible aren't Arabs because it describes the people outside of the gates who are fighting with them as Arabs. And Joshua 10:12, where Joshua prays to God and tells the Lord, and the Lord allows him, the Lord causes the sun to stand still and the moon to stop until the enemies of God are defeated. And we see that in Revelation where where the sun stops shining. The sun and the moon, and there's parallels to Joshua, the book of Joshua. So I talk about a lot of sun scriptures, right? Malachi 4:1, Psalms 38:31, Psalm 19:1-3, Psalms 136, 7-9. And it specifically says, right, the sun to govern the day, to govern. And also I bring up Daniel 1:20. Where Daniel was given divine insight by God. So I'm talking about the Bible in a way that's consistent with a message with a purpose. Instead of just exploring the facts of the Bible, the details, people's interpretation, I'm deliberately pointing to things that are going to be helpful and that have to do with the great conspiracy and why they're wrong about Egypt and why it has deeper implications. I talk about the Round Table Group eventually, the Duels, the Rockefeller, right, CIA, National Security, CFR, various Egyptian books. I talk about Gaddafi some more, the evolution of the Illuminati over the years. I talk about the Bible and the horror and the beast in the Bible. I talk about Phoenix Freemasons and how it connects to the college I was going to. I talk about the Scottish Rite and Kaiser Hospital and Albert Pike's book Moral and Dogma. I believe that's when I start reading from Morals and Dogma and pointing to how their own words prove that I'm right, that they believe in the Luciferian doctrine and that they're trying to make their genes seem superior and what have you. I talk about migrations of people and I show charts over time. I reach out to the Jewish people to try to get them to do the right thing and so on and so forth. I talk about this one teacher I had and how she gave me a hard time. I say the holy ground is off limits. I talk about Mark 5 and 6, and I put together a kind of puzzle to make it interesting, to get my viewers to want to ask me questions and try to say, what's this about? I try to make it interesting, and I talk about certain keys and so on and so forth. The simple answer is it was a work in progress and I never finished. So there is no kind of solvable puzzle there that I'm aware of. but it has been about 15 years, about 15 years, and I don't remember exactly what I was thinking in any of these videos. Okay, I kind of remember the first video well because it was a very kind of definitive moment and a very defining moment, but I don't remember a lot of these videos. Okay, so I talk about the royal family of England a little bit. I talk about, I try to make some poetry. It doesn't come out so well, and that's about it. There's not much more to it than that. There's more to it than that, but not much more, right? A lot of Egyptian exploration of the deities. As I promised in Illuminati Part 1, I start talking about some Egyptian deities more. And I talk about the African origin of martial arts. That's a huge part of that playlist, right? It's kind of justifying my narrative because I'm, not somebody who, works at a church or this, and this, or someone who claims to be an expert on the Bible in terms of, the details of the scripture, like that, in terms of, the history, and I've been trying to explain this for a long time, right? It's the difference between the tree of knowledge and the tree of life, right? Someone knowing all these insignificant facts versus someone knowing the essence of it, right? The greatest commandment sums up the laws and the prophet, Christ says, as a character in the story, right? The golden rule, do to others as you would have them do to you, sums up the law and the prophets, Christ says. He says, why don't you judge for yourselves what is right? So I'm showing you what sound insight is, sound judgment is, instead of just, conforming to the state like we see so many groups doing, okay? And, just being allowed to speak, without being persecuted because those groups aren't doing God's work. They're just conforming and helping people in the state control the masses of people, obviously for the corrupt state agenda. No offense to anybody. These are the facts. Okay, I was very careful in both these parts to not break the rules on TikTok. I'm sure we can all agree. Thank you.